The Yoruichi fan service and ass-kicking finally returns in this week's electrifying chapter of Bleach. Never have I wanted to be Kisuke Urahara more than in this week's chapter. This week's chapter of Bleach was just an explosion of awesomeness. Getting to see Yoruichi in her brand new form just completely tearing Askin apart. Literally sending him flying across the city with massive explosions. What I really loved about this chapter is how Kisuke Urahara actually explained her abilities, and he actually sort of made it go in line with what's going on with influenza or the flu. And that's very fitting because I've had the flu for the last week, and you know what? It has completely sucked balls, but I am finally back and stronger than ever. And that's exactly what's going on in this week's chapter, because apparently Yoruichi is going through these mood swings, so to speak. She's actually going through like 48 different ones in the span of a minute, and because her physical and chemical composition is constantly changing, Askin is taking all of the damage. Basically, he can't keep up with her, and Kisuke Urahara is saying basically it's just like the flu. It comes around every single year, but it changes oh so slightly. So Askin isn't prepared for any of this. Now, while reading this chapter, I just knew that after taking this big massive attack from Yoruichi and being seemingly destroyed by a giant bolt of lightning, that he wasn't going to be defeated. This does not happen regularly in Bleach. It was only a matter of time before we would see a big transformative state from Askin himself, and he does reveal it at the end of this chapter, and I don't even know what the hell to make of it. It looks absolutely ridiculous. It looks like he's got like all these like weird futuristic DNA strands which are constantly coming out of his body and floating around him. Apparently this is his trump card ability, which we were all waiting for. All the Quincy people have them. They all have these crazy transformation sequences. The battle wasn't simply going to end just like that. And to me, that's honestly the worst part about this week's chapter, is that it's basically another by-the-numbers battle from Bleach. That being said, there were a lot of things I really loved about this chapter, in particular all the moments with Yoruichi, who, despite the fact before was actually appearing like an actual real cat, is even more so like a real cat in this form, except with a lot more fan service. The fact that she goes through these mood swings where she'll attack, and then she'll get bored, and then she'll be really affectionate with Kisuke Urahara as far as getting right up in his face and licking him on the cheek, is very strange and leads to a lot of funny moments in this chapter. But honestly, probably my favorite parts about this chapter, aside from the kick-ass action scenes, which looked really explosive and awesome. But this chapter is going to be remembered for that final form, which was revealed by Askin this week, which looks like some sort of weird, spacified, David Bowie-esque looking transformation. I really don't know what to make of it. But I will say it makes for one hell of a final panel in this week's chapter of Bleach. So, what's the rundown on this week's chapter of Bleach? This one was nuts. The fact that Yoruichi basically sort of loses herself and literally transforms into a cat and starts spouting all of this crazy gibberish is really funny, but the fact that she's so incredibly destructive and powerful is insane. The coolest thing about this chapter, though, I think is going to be the speculation as to what's going to be happening later. You see, now that Askin has gone through this crazy transformation, where he probably is going to be able to repel all of Yoruichi's attacks, probably means we're finally going to see Kisuke Urahara in action. We might even get to see him try for once, which I think would be pretty freaking awesome. Maybe we'll get to see Yoruichi have to finally use her Zanpakuto. There's so many possibilities for what could happen in this chapter. Hell, for all we know, the Fullbringers could show up and remind us that they actually exist. That being said, I really just don't have that much more to say about this chapter. Like I said, it is kind of a by-the-numbers battle, where they do a big attack, the bad guy seems like he's seemingly defeated, then he pulls out his trump card. Really, the battle is just getting started. That being said, I've still loved this chapter a lot. I loved the artwork. Yoruichi manages to be sexy and badass all at the same time, and a little bit funny. Just the fact that she's taken on the characteristics of a cat, and like I said, considering when she was first introduced in the series, she actually was like an actual real-looking cat, I think that's kind of funny and very ironic. All I know is the characters of Bleach have totally studied from the Dragon Ball Z rules of showing off your powers, which are, you never show off your coolest abilities at first. You wait until the very last second to finally use some sort of crazy ability. And I have to admit, at the end, when you actually see Askin activating his ability and that giant poison ball starts to open up and envelop everything, it looks pretty devastating and awesome. Although I have a feeling that Kisuke Urahara is just gonna laugh this shit off and just completely end up spanking Space Boy. On the technical side of things, this was a pretty good looking chapter with some great action artwork and some fantastic expressions from Yoruichi, who just had these great anger faces, and these moments where she got up in Kisuke Urahara's face and started licking him were just really funny. And I loved some of the dialogue, which I think was a little mistranslated. Like when Askin actually ends up getting attacked, I think what I read was, "Oh, hell no!" The more cool action that I see from the final arc of Bleach, the more I want to see the actual anime version of the series return. Is it gonna happen? Who knows? Everybody's just got rumors spreading and we don't really have any concrete information. My ideal situation would be that the manga version would finish, then we would finally get our anime version of Bleach, and that would be the end of the story. But we're just gonna have to wait and see how that's going to play out in the manga version as things get even more crazier with more ridiculous over-the-top transformation sequences. That being said, this was a very funny, action-packed chapter with a nice cliffhanger ending, which might seem a little stereotypical, especially for those who read a lot of action manga series, but it was still a very fun read. Anything that involves Yoruichi or Kisuke Urahara, I always just end up eating up. So I loved this chapter a lot, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. A really fun read that any Bleach fan should definitely check out. But if you guys did read this week's chapter of Bleach, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below? What did you think about Yoruichi's abilities in this chapter? Did you have a favorite scene from her this week? And what about Askin Nakovar in his brand new form? Do you like the design? Do you think it's a little too over the top? What do you think these abilities are going to allow him to do? Do you think he's going to be able to take charge of this battle? Or is Urahara going to have to step in and start kicking some Quincy ass? Make sure to tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. You guys are awesome. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.